In here on a Wednesday afternoon, I'm Dave Zavolinsky. A big move at the Capitol today. Lawmakers passing a bill that would not require motorcyclists to wear their helmets. LB 138 would allow riders over 21 years of age to forego a helmet if they have completed a safety course. Now, AAA spoke out against this bill yesterday, the company citing a rise in Missouri deaths since a similar bill passed there. Missouri's DOT says they have had an 800% increase in the number of deaths where riders were not wearing a helmet since that law went into place. Also